Thank you, Luca. And like Adrian, I'm someone who's very aware of the value of learning new languages. I wouldn't be married to my wife if I wasn't a Spanish speaker, for example. And I was reminded a little bit of a time when I was about 18 years old and I was forced to sit through a Welsh lesson, a very different language to English, I can certainly tell you. And I sat through most of it completely lost, absolutely lost. But at the end of about 2 hours, I was able to take away a new opportunity. I could walk into a cafe in Wales, in a Welsh-speaking part, and order a coffee, which felt like a huge achievement after feeling so completely lost. And it reminds me a little bit of the energy efficiency people coming to a room full of financial experts. Often our world, our language will feel a little bit like Welsh, but I'm sure once we can translate between these languages, we will create some very, very significant opportunities together. So as Luca mentioned, I'm just going to give a brief update. Back in Brussels, we said one of our main challenges in the work we're doing in our committee is to really dive deeply into the situation in different national markets and understand what's there already that we are going to build this product around when we're actually defining the kind of green in a green mortgage. And one of the things that we're finding already, and we'll see that from my colleague from GBC Italia shortly, is this isn't about a revolution. It's not about totally reinventing the wheel. It's about a simple evolution. There's a huge amount that's already in place, and so we'll unlock the box in a moment and hear about what's happening in Italy. But we are working in a number of countries with the local green building councils, and I show you this diagram only to let you know that under the European level work that's going on in our committee, there are these committed groups nationally, and we are very keen to engage banks who are present, doing work in this space, to engage them in bilateral discussions with our colleagues as we progress on our work over the coming months. Really, the way that we feel about this at the Green Building Councils, and we are, amongst other things, experts in green building certification, which is one of the reasons why we're on this, is that we will need to work together to shift various parts of the puzzle at the same time here. We are here together with a leadership network trying to figure out how to do these things. We're raising awareness now in the market and elements like skills, which we are present in working on, finance, which you all do, and shifting some of the policy piece will be really key. So I think just as we move through this, we need to keep in mind that we are actually really creating a market by shifting these different parts of the puzzle together. So for Q3, and again, you'll hear a little bit about some of the elements that are already there, examples of best practice initiatives in different member states that we are building on. And we are really trying to just collate those to get an understanding of the current landscape, how we're building the green definition in the green mortgage, and also what any of the costs and barriers will be before, certainly in Q4, our focus becomes actually putting forward initial recommendations as to how we are defining some of the underlying principles of this green mortgage. And as I said, having set up these teams of committed experts in different national markets, the focus next year will really shift to testing those and then moving into the pilot phase that's been outlined by colleagues. I wanted to share some sort of interesting recent findings that were reported by our colleagues in the UK, and to plug an event in London, people involved in a project focused on energy efficient mortgages will gather on the 18th of July for the release of a report, which I hope will be really quite exciting. That I think at its simplest level, because it's looking at can we improve mortgage affordability calculations, the bit that plugs into PD here, by looking at certain very simple energy performance characteristics. And what you will see in that report, just to give you a taster, is you can very significantly improve the mortgage affordability calculations if you had quite basic data, EPCs, and ask customers, for example, simple features of the house, like the number of bedrooms, the type of home. So again, you know, from a very simple approach, there is the potential to very significantly improve how we're estimating fuel spend at these properties. So forecasts of fuel bills can be made. I think what we're seeing at the moment is some discrepancy and argument about the precise level of savings that can be made over time. Different studies in different countries are showing that different quantities can be saved in terms of energy costs over the lifetime of a mortgage. And I think one of the things we're really focused on with our colleagues from RICS is looking at the green value portion of this. I want to talk a little bit about that green value, the LTV part of this is going to be really, really key in terms of how we're defining the greenness of the underlying asset. One of the positive, I think, takeaways was also that some of the early customer work, so some of the customer surveys that were undertaken to say, do you understand this product, this concept of an energy efficiency mortgage? Is it appealing to you? A very large number, 60 to 80% of the respondents really welcomed the overall concept. So it's sort of understood, but there were a few misunderstandings which we'll have to deal with in our marketing work around. Does this penalize energy inefficient properties? Well, no, that's not the point. The point is this is an incentive. So the work that E.ON are doing and will outline shortly is going to be really, really key. So again, looking at the landscape of what's in place already, there are across the region a number of very well-known, robust third-party verified building assessment methods. And the things that you see on the screen there are more familiar to the green bond market for commercial property. So one of our member companies, Vasakronen, when they issued the first green bond for the commercial property sector, they simply referenced BREEAM, Milia Byggnads, LEED, some third-party verified standards that are present in the Swedish market. And whilst these are incredibly robust, they're sort of very investment grade, again, they are more prevalent in the commercial property market. So again, as I say, we're trying to build from the ground up, looking at the member states, what's in place now, what data do we already have for the residential market, where we see so much of this opportunity here, and how can we build up so we've got robust enough data for lenders here. I'm going to skate over this very briefly, but I was very pleased that our colleague from Japan mentioned this idea of health and well-being as an interesting indicator for us to consider. Because the well-being of a building, this drives demand. Is this building a good building for me and my family to live in? And things like thermal comfort, indoor air quality. We're very keen on these things as technicians, but actually these have an impact on the desirability, the livability of these buildings. And again, this is about driving demand and impacting value, so another key consideration. Going forwards, and I'll end there before I move on to our colleague from Italy, we're really calling for, from the technical community and the banking community, those who have experience, those who can actually tell us about initiatives at the national level, experience they've got, and importantly, data they've got if they're willing to share it, to get in touch with us as we're setting out our store on best practice. So really encourage you to get in touch with myself and my colleague Stephen, who are helping run this committee. And I'll hand over there to my colleague Valentina from Italy to unlock the box, the energy efficiency world, and some of the standards in Italy.